Hello and welcome to my channel, AIGHT Gaming. One of the first to be teasered characters, Cyno, has finally arrived in patch 3.1. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at how good a Constellation C0 Cyno is with the free-to-play friendly 4-star craftable weapon, the Moon Piercer. This video will feature a Thundering Fury Aggravate showcase and then a Hyperbloom Showcase showcase after that. And finally, at the end of the video, I will be offering my initial impressions of Cyno so far. And don't forget to make this the video that you actually smash that subscribe button because there will be a lot more Cyno content coming soon. Anyway, before we get started with the showcase, let's familiarize ourselves with my Cyno's build. His stats are a bit lopsided with much more crit damage than crit rate, and this is largely thanks to his crit damage ascension stat. But really quick, it's time to pay some bills, and today's sponsor is the Ridge Wallet. Ridge is an industry leader for making some of the coolest and most pragmatic wallets in the world. You can bet there's a good reason why over 2 million people have a Ridge wallet. And if you're tired of your wallet swelling up the moment you put one extra card in there, then the Ridge wallet is perfect for you. Just look at my Ridge wallet. I've got 7 cards and a bunch of cash in it, and it's still incredibly compact. Funnily enough, I was already using a Ridge wallet for years before they actually asked me to be a sponsor. I've never gone back to the ridiculously floppy wallets of the Stone Ages. But wait! For every dollar you spend before September 30th, you'll be entered to win a brand new upgraded Ford Bronco, or $75,000 if you prefer that. The winner will be announced in October, so be sure to act fast. Just smash that link down below and use my coupon code AIGHT for 10% off. The one I got is the Forged Ember wallet and key case. Anyway, I think the wallet and key case speak for themselves. They're beautifully designed, masterfully compact, and ultimately pragmatic. Carry less, live more. Huge thanks to Ridge Wallet for sponsoring today's video. For his weapon, I'm using the craftable 4-star polearm, the Moon Piercer at Refinement 5 on my Cyno. But wait, before you go crafting your own Moon Piercer, there are many other free-to-play friendly weapons that are better than this one for Cyno. For a full guide on his weapon options, do be sure to check out my upcoming Cyno guide video. Anyway, for his artifacts, he is using the 4-piece Thundering Fury with an Elemental Mastery timepiece. He is at Constellation 0 throughout this entire video, and his talents are at 1, 9, and 9. With all that out of the way, we can finally start the showcase by beating up on our favorite volunteer, the Cryo Regisvine. Let's see how strong his basic attacks, Invoker's Spear, are. Unsurprisingly, with a level 1 basic attack talent, his physical, normal, and charge attacks are doing a pitiful amount of damage. The reason why I left his basic attacks at level 1 is because they are completely inconsequential to the rest of his kit, which is the perfect segue to talk about his elemental skill. Secret Rite, Chasmic Soulfare. Cyno's elemental skill has 3 variants, with the first vanilla variant is when you just use his elemental skill outside of his burst. It has a longish 7.5 second cooldown, and from my observations, it generates a reasonable 3 electro particles. Sadly, the amount of damage it does without reactions is not great outside of his burst, only doing 6,030 damage on crit and a paltry 2,123 damage on not crit. Anyway, we'll be circling back to his elemental skill after we start talking about his elemental burst, Sacred Rite, Wolf's Swiftness. Cyno dons an epic jackal mask, and now his basic attacks are infused with electro. During his burst, his normal attacks use the multipliers specified by his elemental burst, so you need to level up his elemental burst, not his basic attack talents. Anyway, he has a snazzy normal attack string which is fast and feels somewhat powerful. His basic attacks are also enhanced by his passive, Authority over the 9 Bows, which adds 150% of his elemental mastery as flat damage to each of his basic attacks. Unfortunately, his charge attack during his burst is slow and doesn't appear to hit very hard, but that's just my initial impression of his charge attack. Perhaps there is some additional utility in it that I have not yet explored. Anyway, during his burst, his elemental skill now turns into the Mortuary Rite variant, which generates I think 1 to 2 electro particles. but much more importantly, it now has a 3-second cooldown instead of a 7.5-second cooldown. And over the duration of his burst, Cyno periodically gains this eyeball thing, which if you use his elemental skill while the eyeball thing is there, it will enhance his elemental skill to also shoot out 3 additional Dust Stalker bolts thanks to his passive talent. Each of these bolts gain 250% elemental mastery as flat damage, which is quite a decent amount. And using a mortuary right elemental skill during the eyeball enhancement thing extends the duration of Cyno's burst by 4 seconds, taking his initially 10-second burst up to a maximum of 18 seconds if you do 2 or more mortuary right enhanced eyeball elemental skills. As we can see, using his elemental skill when the eyeball appears is a very important part of Cyno's kit, doing a lot of his damage, generating particles for himself, and extending his burst's duration. Let's glue all this together to see how his full kit performs. While he was barely able to take out the Registine with his raw electro damage, however, we all know that Cyno was designed to be used with Aggravate, with Dendro and thus Quicken applied to the Registine. Now our Registine friend is far too fragile to withstand any more than a few seconds of Cyno's aggravated onslaught. So now we've seen a bit of what Cyno can do. Let's try him out in a full team scenario. The team I'll be showcasing with him is with a Windbloom Ode Gilded Dreams Fischl, Favonius Noblesse Oblige Dendro Traveler, and Favonius Tenacity Zhongli. I usually avoid other 5-star characters in these Constellation 0 showcases, but I've made an exception for Cyno. If you don't have Zhongli, I'll talk about that later in this video. Let's take this team to go electrocute our favorite angry green chicken thing, the Jade Bloom Terror Shroom. Well, this team was handily able to single cycle the Angry Chicken, largely thanks to all the electro application, enraging our Angry Chicken acquaintance even more. I've got a couple more shiny new overworld bosses to show you guys, with the first one being this oversized mechanical triangle. As it's shooting countless lasers at literally nothing, this gives this team plenty of time to sneak around its infallible attack hitting nothing, and thus I begin setting up. When this geometry test of a boss drops these things on the ground, you can use Quicken to quickly destroy them. This Cyno team was able to comfortably single cycle this brand new giant robot Dorito. We have one last overworld boss showcase, which is now a sleepy giant robot chicken. MiHoYo has been loving their giant chickens lately. Anyway, our robot chicken friend is a great new punching bag, and it appears to be roughly as durable as the Primo Geo Vishap. This might just be my new favorite volunteer moving forward. The Thundering Fury allows Cyno to squeeze in some additional ease throughout his burst duration, thanks to all the aggravates that he procs. As we can see, this Cyno team is quite capable of handling large and relatively stationary enemies. But how does this team perform in the hardest of all content, Abyss 12? Like I mentioned earlier, I will talk about a Zhongli-less Hyperbloom team later, but for now, let's try him out with this Cyno team of the CEO of GEO, Zhongli. As we can see, Cyno is doing some good damage with a lot of aggravates. This synergizes well with Fischl, as Fischl's second passive, Undone by Thy Sinful Hex, is triggered when Cyno triggers Aggravate. However, due to the very long duration and field time of Cyno, Fischl's Oz isn't able to stay on field for much of his burst. That's why Dendro Traveler and Zhongli are great teammates for Cyno. Dendro Traveler's Dendro application lasts a very long time, typically enough to last through Cyno's burst. And Zhongli's shield lasts 20 seconds, which is literally one of the longest buffs in the entire game. Cyno also doesn't have any super armor, so Zhongli's shield helps a ton there. Combining all this with Thundering Fury, Cyno is able to shave off a few seconds off his rotation thanks to the cooldown reduction from the Thundering Fury. 12-2-1 is unfortunately particularly obnoxious for a team without an animo character though, as this team clearly has no suction power. However, with some good luck, we're able to hit the Sassin Mage and her Mirror Maiden friend at the same time.
2,000 years later.
While certainly not as fast as a Venti team, this Cyno Zhongli team was able to complete 12-2-1 in a reasonable amount of time. Now let's talk about 12-3-1. This chamber is an absolute disaster for Cyno. His normal attacks during his burst have a lot of knockback, and so does his elemental skill. This leads to Cyno constantly pushing the Vishaps all around and outside of Traveler's burst radius. Zhongli's petrification and shield help tremendously though for this specific chamber, as any amount of time you're able to whack multiple Vishaps is a huge amount of time saved. Cyno also lacks super armor and any additional survivability during his burst, and Zhongli's shield is the perfect remedy for this, as otherwise 12-3-1 is an incredibly dangerous chamber. Anyway, with this team, Cyno was able to complete 12-1-1 in 63 seconds, 12-2-1 in 62 seconds, and 12-3-1 in 85 seconds. But wait! Unfortunately, the current Abyssal Moon reduces defense by 35% when you activate Quicken. This is a huge buff to Cyno's performance, and honestly, you should add anywhere between 10 and 30% additional time to these clear times, thus making it hard to really say that Cyno completed these chambers within the recommended 90 seconds. As I mentioned earlier, I have another team to showcase in this video, which is a Hyperbloom Cyno team. This Cyno's build is much more focused on Elemental Mastery with the Gilded Dream set, and he's also the main activator for Hyperbloom. Beidou, Xingqiu, and Dendro Traveler are his teammates, and both Beidou and Xingqiu are built with lots of damage and energy recharge with great Emblem of Severed Fates artifacts. Let's see how this team performs against the Robot Chicken. 万象を粛清する罪を償うがいい断罪の時罪を償うがいい審判を下す As we can see, this team pretty much did just as well as the previous Aggravate team, even against this single target Robot Chicken. As for Abyss 12, well, this team also benefits tremendously from the Abyssal Moon. With very good artifacts on Beidou and Xingqiu and all free-to-play accessible 4-star weapons, this team ended up performing roughly the same as the previous Aggravate team for Abyss 12. Although honestly, 12-3-1 was much more difficult, since without Zhongli's shield, I actually often died to all the random nonsense that was flying around all the time. This is a 4-star only viable free-to-play friendly team for Cyno, but it does really enjoy having 3 fully built characters in Cyno, Beidou, and Xingqiu, so hopefully you've been farming a ton of great Emblem of Severed Fates artifacts as well. I also wanted to add that all these good Cyno teams, or at least this Aggravate and Hyperbloom team, don't even have a healer, so you've got to be extra careful about taking damage. So what do I think about Cyno so far? Honestly, he's okay. Cyno really feels like an Electro Xiao. They both put on a mask to do damage, they both have very long burst durations, they both don't have much front-loaded damage, they both have a lot of knockback in their kit, they both do an okay amount of damage, they both cannot be swapped off or else they lose their burst, and they both have energy issues. My Cyno's energy issues throughout this video were largely remedied by having Fischl and 2 Favonius weapons. While we're missing an off-field Dendro applicator who can solve one of the many team building issues that Cyno has right now. If there's ever a Dendro character that applies Dendro that follows solos your character, or roots the enemy, which in my opinion is thematically Dendro-like, or heals, or even shields you, honestly any of these will help Cyno tremendously, and I do expect him to get better as we get more Dendro characters. Overall, Cyno is a fun and okay Aggravate DPS character, so if you're looking for an Electro Xiao-like experience, then Cyno is perfect for you. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to Lose, signing out.